Emery brings across.
For me, it sounds a little odd at that rate, like it's Big Brother watching. I can project pretty well, and I can talk a long time. So if at some point you need to go to the bathroom or want to leave, my idea is to stay here until the very last one of you goes. Because I have no other purpose but to come here and talk to you and tell you as much as I know about marijuana prohibition and what I'm doing about it and what I've done for 20 years and why marijuana is so great and that marijuana people have produced the most brilliant, wonderful stuff for our planet more than any other group, cultural group in modern history. You just won't believe how much the world owes to marijuana people and yet how terribly we're treated and scapegoated. My name is Marc Emery, and I'm the publisher of Cannabis Culture magazine, and we have a website, cannabisculture.com, and we have a website called Pop TV, which was the first live streaming video website in the world. We started on January 1st, 2000, and nowadays we're kind of eclipsed by YouTube, because YouTube carries everybody's videos, and special in the first 6 years. But it's Pop TV, even after 9 years, it's still on, and you can see over 100 videos all about marijuana. Everything about marijuana, from the religion, the spirituality, the science, the politics, the legalization movement itself, how to make hash, how to grow weed. We have a video on Pop TV that can answer any single question you got. And for that matter, a lot of things I bring up now. Everything I'm going to tell you tonight is the truth. And I don't think people would come in here and say everything I'm going to tell you is not necessarily the truth. But anything you hear me say, you will be able to verify if you Google just a few simple words.
I need to grab the car keys to... So sorry to interrupt.
That was odd. And everything I tell you is true and you can verify it. For example, when I tell you later on, we had a discussion that you'll never get Alzheimer's disease ever as long as you smoke one joint every day after the age of 52. You can go check that out. There's over 12 studies on our website, cannabisculture.com, that verify that no one who smokes pot has ever gotten Alzheimer's disease. And that's pretty phenomenal because a lot of medicines they offer these days will actually allow you to live better while you've still got that illness. You know, nobody cures anything anymore. It just makes it more livable and bearable so they can keep selling that medicine forever and ever. But marijuana smoking after the age of 52 will absolutely stop you from ever getting Alzheimer's disease. There is not one known incident of anyone who smoked marijuana for a protracted period of time who's ever gotten Alzheimer's. Well, while we're on the subject too, I'll get who prides himself on being very attentive, who's going to remember most things I say? Would that be you? Because every now and then I will go off on a tangent and I'll need someone to reel me back into where I left off because I've got a million different stories about marijuana and pot. And I know a lot of them, so I will segue all over the place to tell you about them. So let me just say that marijuana is the greatest plant ever put on this planet. And all scientific evidence, all empirical evidence, all historical evidence validates that. There's absolutely no other plant on the planet that people wore the clothing of for thousands of years. And cotton, by the way, is a relatively modern invention. Cotton was only mass picked starting in the 1700s with the invention of the cotton gin. So the kind of clothes we wear today, we've only been wearing for about 220 years. In the medieval period, and in the biblical period, and in the ancient period, clothing was made largely of marijuana hemp, sisal, and jute, and flax. All the kind of things that would grow in the Middle East that people could harvest and cultivate and use a primitive loom to make into clothing. And the clothing was expensive and difficult to make in the ancient period. People didn't own a lot of clothing. So hemp lasted a long, long time in that ancient period. Now there's a plant we're already talking about. None of us are probably wearing too much hemp clothing here, but cannabis was useful for over 5,000 years. From the first clothing was made, estimated around 4,000 BC to the present time. So cannabis clothing has been around 6,000 years. The earliest known historical reference of people eating cannabis seeds is 5,500 years before Christ. So 7,000 years ago, people have been eating cannabis for its nutrient value. The earliest known episode of smoking marijuana, and it wasn't done with a joint or a pipe in the ancient period. It was done by building a big tent and at the harvest festival after they shook out all the seeds of the cannabis, because you need those to crush them for oil to eat, to make gruel and cereals, because they're very portable. Hemp seeds last a long time. You can carry them with you. They're super handy. They were traded as a commodity. Lots of things. Oils were made out of them. them, cakes were made out of them. And when they shook out all the seeds, and when they kept all the stems, the long bast fibers for clothing, they took the flowering tops with the seeds out, and they would go into a teepee, and unfortunately it was only the men who were allowed to do this, and they would stand about, jump out, and then throw huge armfuls of weed, marijuana, right on the fire in the middle of this teepee, and it would just go, it would be so hot it would turn into a vast, vaporizing steam room, and it was so overwhelming and powerful that the men would stand around breathing it in heavily, would see visions of God. And this is how they connected with God in the ancient period, is by throwing big heaps of cannabis on a fire in a teepee, and the smoke and steam swirling around it and overwhelming them until they fell to the ground and saw incredible visions. So cannabis has been around for not only centuries, but millennia. And it's been a very useful one. When you look up the historical records, you don't see anybody going, oh my God, I'm worried about the 16-year-olds on the block smoking marijuana. You never see that. That's a strictly modern phenomenon of the last 60 years. Marijuana's been around 15,000 years, and never were our elders in any past society, in any past period of time, ever worried about young people getting a hold of this plant and abusing it and passing laws to ban it. It's totally unprecedented historically. It's only in the modern context we have what we call reefer madness, absolutely insane things. Because let me tell you this, and I'm going to get around to my personal story, that I'm going to jail soon, and that's why I'm going across Canada. Give what is basically my version of this will be the last, if this is the last thing you ever hear, this is what I want you to hear. Because I'm going to U.S. federal prison on a 5-year term. I'll spend at least 4 years there if I don't get transferred to a Canadian jail. And who knows, prisons are rough. I actually won't be with any other Americans. I'll be the only Canadian in this jail, full of Mexicans, Guatemalans, Central Americans, and other aliens who've been rounded up by the United States and put in a federal prison. So that's one of the reasons I'm going to learn Spanish in jail, is out of necessity. And the other thing is you've got to keep busy when you're in jail, otherwise you will go nuts. Boredom is the biggest enemy of anybody in jail. I bet there's a few people in here who've been to jail. You know, I have been in jail. I've been arrested 23 times. I've been jailed 18 times. I've been in jail, and all that for marijuana. I've actually been jailed for a number of other things, including Sunday shopping, challenging the obscenity laws, and a whole bunch of other civil disobedience. But for pot alone, I've been arrested 23 times and jailed 17 times. I've been jailed in 8 out of 10 provinces. The only province I have not been in jail is Quebec and Prince Edward Island, though not for lack of trying. I was met by riot police in Montreal. Nearly cracked my skull open, but they did not arrest me. And in Prince Edward Island, I smoked out the police department for about 2 hours. And the cop drove up and down the street and kept an eye on me the whole 2 hours, but he did not arrest me. So, but I would tell you, I've been arrested in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, St. John's, Newfoundland, Moncton, New Brunswick, and Lawrencetown, and Halifax, Nova Scotia, and somewhere in Ontario in the past. My first jailing was 21 years ago in London, Ontario. That was for Sunday shopping. So I've seen jails. I haven't seen U.S. federal prisons before. I haven't left Canada for 12 years because I thought my work would be so notorious to the U.S. government that they would pick me up anywhere in the world if I traveled abroad. So I didn't travel abroad, and eventually the U.S. government figured that out and decided they had to come to Canada to get me. Now, why are they coming to get me? Because I'm going to establish to you, and I want you to verify any of these things you find too incredible to believe. Because everything I'm telling you is not a secret, it's not a mystery. The evidence is out there and you can get it with 10 seconds on a Google search. Marijuana is the greatest plant ever put on here. It can heal us. I meet crippled up people every day who need marijuana to keep them alive. One of the most recent instances of how callous our society can be and how much someone can benefit by marijuana was this woman named Marilyn Holston in Vancouver, who's being evicted, unfortunately, from her apartment, even though she's been there 8 years. It's because and she has a legal license to possess marijuana too. And they're trying to evict her because they don't want the smell of marijuana in the building, even though we've actually given her a vaporizer when we read about her in the newspaper, and there's no more smell left. People are allowed to smoke tobacco in this building, and it's all older people or people with a medical condition, and they're trying to evict her, and there's absolutely nobody complaining in the building about her behavior, about the smell of marijuana. It's just the manager of the building trying to, now eviction work is underway. Well, this woman is a diabetic who has no legs. Her legs are both amputated. She needs marijuana the ghost pains that come from the amputation. She's on a dialysis machine, a big huge metal thing that cleans out your body, your blood, and your liver for 3 hours every day. And she's going blind. So she's going blind, she has no legs, and she's hooked up to a dialysis machine 5 days a week for 3 hours, and they go evict her, simply because of the smell of marijuana. And it's absolutely appalling, because if you go to the province newspaper's website, you'll find a massive discussion, and 60–70% of the people are quite sympathetic towards her and intelligent and reasonable and compassionate. But there's a shocking number of people, 30 to 40% of them, maybe 75 people out of the 200 Congress, who say she knew the rules, she should get evicted, throw her out. These potheads want special privileges. These potheads. The woman smokes a quarter gram 4 times a day for a total of 1 gram. I don't even consider that a pothead. That's a lightweight. That's not even, you don't even get to be pothead. Just 1 gram a day. Right? 1 gram a day. They're trying to evict her. And I don't imagine she has more than 4 or 5 years to live. If you're hooked up to a dialysis machine 5 days a week, and you're going blind and you have no legs, I admire the fact that you're fucking still alive 24 hours later. Because I have no idea what that would be like. I can't imagine what it would be like. But I can't even imagine even more trying to tell a woman that she deserves to be evicted because the smell of weed comes out of her apartment like once in a blue moon. And there's so many other heartless, callousing ways. Like, how do we justify in our society people having taken their kids away because they're growing marijuana? You know, this whole country was founded as an agricultural nation. Every single child grew up beside a lot of plants 100 years ago in this country. About 60% of all Canadians grew up on a farm 100 years ago. And almost all the labor put into this country was for food processing and natural resources. Kids were always around plants. It was healthy to be around plants. Sunrise and got out and worked on a farm in most Canadian places on Earth, in this country. And now we're afraid we take people's children away from marijuana. Again, marijuana is the most beautiful plant. It's not toxic, won't kill you. It's incredibly safe. It has an unbelievably safe threshold. And I'll tell you, it's the safest thing on earth because, listen to this, everything that's legal and accepted and normal in society will kill you. All right? Prescription drugs kills a lot of people, 15,000 people in Canada every year. Alcohol kills 2,000 people just on the roads every year. Right? Let alone what it does in domestic violence and all sorts of violence. The number of unwanted pregnancies are always highest around alcohol. Right? We have tobacco. Tobacco kills 40,000 Canadians every year. It actually kills 430,000 Americans every year. There's 1 million North Americans die from tobacco alone, and it's government makes lots of money from it. Fast cars will kill you. One way speedometer goes up to 260 kilometers an hour, and you can't even legally drive above 110. That seems fantastic, and yet they even advertise cars. They're always wheeling around the desert, spitting out fumes, Robert Daltrey screaming for won't get fooled again. You know, guys go, that's what I want. I want to do wheelies around the desert, but that's all illegal. It doesn't matter, they advertise it. Right beside beer ads. If you watch a hockey game, even though you get the message occasionally don't drink and drive, they always put car ads opposite beer ads. And what are those beer ads doing? By the way, everything will kill you. Peanuts kills at least 20 people a year in North America. Sesame seeds kill over 100. Aspirin kills over 1,200. Even water in Watertown, Ontario killed 8 people a few years ago. And if the deli meat you buy is the wrong one, it can kill you too, as we saw with the Maple Leaf scandal. Guns will kill you and they're legal to own. Fast cars will kill you and they're legal to own. In fact, every single way of dying is legal that I can tell. And yet something that won't kill you, there aren't even many substances on this earth that won't kill you. Sugar will kill you. Sugar kills thousands of people every year. It's the reason we all have people getting diabetes because it's fructose sweeteners. Salt will kick your ass once you're over 52. You meet old people all the time, say, you ought to put that salt in that French bread if I were you. Salt is kicking their ass. They'll say, I get high blood pressure if I have too much salt. I'll die of a heart attack if I have high blood pressure. So sugar will kick your ass. Water is going to kill you. Salt will kill you. Right? Fatty foods will certainly kill you. Eat eggs in the morning, high cholesterol will kill you. Alcohol will kill you. Prescription drugs will kill you. Tobacco will kill you. I mean, everything is going to kill you. Aspirin oil. Coffee gives over 1,000 people irritable bowel syndrome in this country every year. Crohn's disease is caused by milk enzymes. Right? Everything you're buying and doing today will kill you except pot. But 250,000 people around the world are in jail for pot right now, even though it's pretty well the only thing on earth that won't kill you. It's not even possible. There's no known record of it. And not only will it not kill you, and here's the incredible thing. Okay, let's just assume that pot's neutral, right? And it'd be different if we could say, okay, let's say alcohol didn't kill you. You can't really say alcohol is really useful for something. If tobacco didn't kill you, you couldn't come up and say, and not only that, tobacco is good for all these things. It'll make my MS better. It'll make my glaucoma recede. It'll be great when I do chemotherapy to chug a lot of nicotine. No, right? Pharmaceuticals usually don't even accomplish what they tell you. Antidepressants, I mean, there's a thing on TV called Abilify, and when you look at what it's in case your current level of antidepressants aren't working, take another one. Take Abilify to make your other ones that you're taking home and this one all work together. You know what? They don't even know how those things work, and people